Listen, guys, we've made news. And we've made fake news.
Okay, help me out. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Remember when we did the Conan O'Brien Needs a Fan episode with Smith Mulliken, the guy who was responsible for the shipping manifest of things that go up to space?
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
And we joked, what could you send up? And Sona said, space porn. And then we got into a conversation about jizzing in space. I said, if one male astronaut jizzes in space, he could get up to 3 female astronauts pregnant.
Right, right.
Well, now news outlets picked this up and started presenting it as news. And when I say news outlets, I mean real rags like the New York Post and a bunch of other
And the New York Times.
clickbait
and
things.
CNN.
No.
And
So the best part about this is that Snopes had to do an entry on it. Now, Snopes is the fact-checking site that people go to find out if something is real or not. I've been a donor to this site before. I love this site, and I'm so happy to be on there, but also bummed to be on there as one of the people, blamed for fake news.
well, help me, because you're not being quite clear here. You're saying that people reporting that this did happen, that 3 astronauts got pregnant?
I'll clarify.
Okay.
Here's the Snopes article itself. Claim, a NASA scientist warned astronauts against masturbating in space because they could accidentally impregnate multiple women at once. Rating, false. Fact check. In July 2022, several news sites published articles claiming that a NASA scientist had recently issued a warning to astronauts against masturbating in space because it allegedly could impregnate multiple women. The New York Post, for example, published an article headlined, "Astronauts should not masturbate in zero gravity," NASA scientist says. The Daily Star ran with, "Astronauts warned not to masturbate in space as one session can impregnate 3 females." These headlines are absurd.
Stupid.
NASA has issued no such warning to its astronauts. These articles were based on a joke that was told by a comedian during a recent episode of Conan O'Brien's podcast, Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend. On July 21st, an episode of the podcast titled Space Porn was released on various podcast platforms. The episode featured Conan, co-host Sona, Movsesian, and Matt Gourley, and guest Smith Mulliken, a mechanical engineer who works with a NASA contractor in Houston, Texas. During the episode, Conan asked Mulliken about what sort of items can be shipped up to the International Space Station. As the host mulled ideas about the strangest items that could be shipped to space, co-host Movsesian asked if he'd ever sent porn into space.
Oh, man. They specified it was me that brought up the porn.
Yeah, but still, let's hear more. Let's hear more.
No, Mulliken replied, none of that. The curious hosts were not satisfied with this answer, however, and continued to joke about porn and masturbation in space. At one point, Gourley, who is a comedian, now they should fact check
That's the fake news.
Yes, I know.
That is to me, that's the most,
I know.
that's the part that has me enraged.
Well, I get called a scientist later, too. I'm loving this. All right. At one point, Gourley, who's a comedian and not a NASA scientist, joked that 3 female astronauts could be impregnated at the same time if an astronaut were to masturbate in space. Here's the exchange. Conan, were someone to be watching space porn on the space station, how does that work? Gourley, 3 female astronauts can be impregnated by the same man from the same session. Conan, because the semen flies around? Gourley, and finds its way. Movsesian, and the women are all naked? Gourley, well, it's space porn. Mulliken, who is not directly employed by NASA, was not an active participant in this portion of the conversation. This was a brief.
I'm glad that we cleared him. If we've done nothing else, we've cleared him of all charges.
This was a brief exchange by 3 comedians. However,
no, it was not an exchange by. There's one comedian here.
Yeah.
Then there's Sona. I don't know what class. You're my assistant.
Yeah, I'm your assistant.
And Gourley, I don't know what you are.
I don't either.
You're just an imp. You're a troublesome imp.
No.
But you are not a comedian.
However, when this conversation was recounted in the pages of the New York Post, the site misquoted this section and claimed that the scientist had issued this warning about multiple women getting pregnant. The scientist in the concluding sentence was actually comedian Gourley.
Okay. Listen, you've got to stop. Is there more to read?
Just to sum up,
Okay.
that NASA has not issued this guideline, and there is even, I believe, some proof or some evidence that the Russians wanted astronauts to try that in space, but there might be some logistical problems to having sex with someone in space because of lack of gravity has an impact on blood flow. So that's just the fact of it all.
Okay.
right.
Well, that's all neither here nor there. I think we should attack what's happened in the media. There are many instances of fake news in the media. I don't think this is that egregious because I think we brought up a legitimate point, and I think that astronauts should be warned. We don't know. Science doesn't know what's going to happen. if space porn somehow invades the International Space Station.
Well, now isn't this reason for them to find out? Like now now we need to know.
Well, I'm
Someone
pretty
needs to
sure the
jizz.
Russians have figured it out already. We just
Someone
need them to
needs
share.
jizz.
Yeah.
No, okay, let's-
Someone needs to jizz.
But can I say
in the
something?
International
This
Space
is
Station. We need to.
what's clear to me is that we were talking about an interesting subject in an erudite way. Then you mentioned you take it to porn.
This isn't just
Hold it.
my fault.
Sona, you brought it to porn, and then the imp over here
I'm a comedian.
starts.
Excuse me.
No, you are
Comedian.
neither a
And a
comedian or a
scientist.
scientist. You bring it to semen, and it's all the low arts. It's the low hanging fruit.
You're
No.
also quoted in
Yes.
that Snopes article as carrying this conversation forward.
Snopes is the
So it's
final
not
word.
just the
Wait,
two of
all
us.
I'm doing in that conversation is trying to get some clarity, but I did not introduce those topics. I was trying to keep it more towards what are the fun, innocent things that could be brought to the space station or put into space. You were the guys that brought it, Sona, you with porn, and then you alley-ooped it over to this creep who took it to Jizz Mountain. And then that's where we are. That's where we are.
Did you just say Jizz Mountain?
Yeah.
You are
No,
not.
but what
Can
I'm
people get pregnant on Jizz Mountain?
You can, but the man has to be at the top, and the women have to be at a slight grade below them, so it could run down.
Okay. Jesus.
Now, news outlets, if you're listening, this is very
There's a
important.
mountain.
Yeah,
It's Jizz Mountain.
The
No, but
higher the
I-
altitude, the thinner the jizz.
yeah.
Okay, that's great. Well, this is what we have. This is what we have.
And
is
there's a
we
capper
have
to this.
okay, which
Joe
is that you're
Rogan-
still employed. That's the capper. Is
Say
that
that-
you're
say
still
that again.
is the capper is that you're still employed. That
No.
you're still here, and you're
Are you
going
kidding?
to.
You get a comedian and a scientist, and you're paying for one.
Oh my God!
You act like you're above this. You're
I
not
am
above.
above it
You're
all.
not above.
I'm above it all. I
You-
sit.
You are. Part
I am the
of
great
this.
pharaoh who
No.
stands atop the
No.
pyramid
No.
and watches you guys slinging jizz down at the bottom of the pyramid.
We've got a capper for this.
Okay.
So you know that this is real news. Joe Rogan has put it on his Instagram.
Oh,
The
Fantastic.
headline from one of the articles.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's great.
So you-
Well, we don't, and again, I am defending the New York Post. I'm defending any outlet that ran with this. We don't know if it's fake news. We really don't.
No, we do know that NASA has not issued that warning.
Yeah, but maybe NASA should. That's my point. NASA, get on it. Do you know what I mean? They're stargazing so much they're not keeping their eye on things that could really happen.
I think people need a release, even in
Yes.
space. I don't think it's fair.
Well, then
to tell
come up
them
with a
that-
device that keeps the material secreted and far from anyone who could be impregnated.
They
That's
have
all.
that. It's called the International Space Station.
It's a tube sock.
All right. Okay. Nicely done, Sona.